And at the same time, I'm also seeing that very experienced people are having a hard time finding a job. Like, I know a guy who is extremely highly qualified, a specialist for Kubernetes, distributed systems, etc. And even he's having a hard time finding a job and or clients at the moment. Like, it affects all of us to some degree, and then obviously it affects you on the other side because you're getting 500 applications, which is, that should not be happening. That those people can't all be a good fit for that job. They're not. But everyone is desperate, and I don't know how to fix it.
Hey, welcome everybody to, I don't know, the 8th or ninth episode of Mental Health in Tech. We just today, so today's the 15th of May, we just today released a new episode with the happiest software engineer in the world. There's a whole story there, so I'd encourage you to go back to that one and listen to that episode. Today we're joined by Kai. They will introduce themselves in a moment. I'm not going to say too much. I think if you haven't listened to the previous ones, just a quick intro. Software engineer, did community for a while, figured out that if you do that full time, it's not what you think it is. My experience anyway, it's more marketing than anything else, which is not what I had in mind. So I decided, nope, I'm going back to software engineering. So I've been through quite a thing the last couple of weeks, which we'll talk about, but I'm now again finally employed. So for my mental health check-in, if I talked to you a week ago, this would have been a very, very different story. But in general, I'm doing much better than I have been for the last couple of weeks. There's some things related to the capitalist world we live in that is still problematic, which is a side effect of having been unemployed and all that kind of stuff. So that is some crap that I'll have to sort out in the coming weeks. But at least I'm employed. I have a job. And in today's tech market, that is something to be grateful for. So I'm going to be grateful for where I am right now, even though there's some stuff that's stressing me the hell out. But yeah. And other than that, I've been doing this for about 15 years now, not being unemployed, being a software engineer. I do this podcast with Schalk, other Schalk. I'm not talking about myself in the third person. And then I have two other podcasts, the Mechanical Link podcast, the Mycelium Network podcast, that are also tech related, but different topics. So that's enough about me. I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Schalk Venter, and let him do his bit and then hand over to our guest.
Cool. Thanks so much for that. So also just full on disclaimer. So the previous episode about the happiest software developer, plot twist, that was neither me nor other Schalk. It was our guest. I'm at this moment a very unhappy software developer, but yeah, like luckily I have a platform now to talk about it. So I think also just quick before I segue into that, I do actually think it's maybe just useful kind of just saying up front that I think a big focus of today is going to be about employment and being unemployed, and like the intersections there in terms of the job market and mental health and so forth. So Schalk kind of recently went through it. As far as I understand, Kai's still going through it. I'm not unemployed, wasn't recently unemployed, but I've been doing some hiring recently, and I think there's some interesting perspectives there as well in terms of what it looks like from the other side, and surprisingly, like some of the mental health effects of seeing a lot of that kind of desperation and things at the moment. But yeah, like so for me, I don't know, not in a great space. There's some stuff going on in my subconscious. Been having a lot of nightmares, like a lot of like just like general like unease. Can't really pin it down in terms of what exactly is going on, like what is causing me distress. But yeah, I if I have to kind of take a guess, I'd probably say that. So the kids are kind of now at a point where, like, kind of they're almost transitioning out of kind of like the the baby period, the youngest one and the eldest one is kind of now kind of transitioning out of the kind of the toddler phase into like becoming an actual like legit kid. And yeah, I think that is kind of like I don't know, like it's I think it's just probably bubbled up some things that I, kind of feelings around kind of myself and my own journey and kind of just the idea of having a family and all the pressure that comes with that and um yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know, maybe next episode I'll maybe have a better grasp on that. But I think that's also like something that I've had to learn to also be able to openly talk about. It's just like when you're feeling gross and you're feeling something's wrong, but you can't really say what, and you don't really even know if you have a reason. And I think that's even worse, trying to figure that out and talk openly about that than being like, yeah, like, so like I don't know, whatever, my car got like stolen or whatever, and that's why I'm unhappy. So yeah, there's that. Um but yeah, like, so I'm happy to hand over to Kai. It's one of those ones where I go in completely blind. That we've literally just met right now, so yeah, I'm keen to learn a bit more. So yeah, over to you, Kai.
Thank you so much. My name is Kai. My pronouns are they, them. I'm non-binary. I'm a technical communication specialist. I do kind of have a background in journalism, did a lot of writing, but communication kind of sums it up. With specifically specialized in tech. I was self-employed for about a decade, and I went really well. And then like a year and a half ago or so, I decided to try out employment. I was employed for 6 months. It was the worst time of my life work-wise. I have never, like, I hadn't been that unhappy in a while. I would have stayed on until I found something new, but the company was pretty much a piece of shit. I don't know if I can swear, but the company was terrible. I'm getting a thumbs up. It was a piece of shit company, and they treated people terribly, and they're still treating people terribly. And I was an international hire and easy to get rid of within the trial period, so they did it. And they even said it wasn't because my work was bad, but just because they're shit. So I've now been out of work for about 9 months, and in a way, it's been terrible because while my partner luckily makes enough for us to get by, like, we do have to watch money quite a bit, but we're okay. I haven't felt this useless and like I'm not contributing in a long time. But at the same time, the last 9 months have also been incredible and a huge learning experience. Like, I had given talks before, but I gave my first talk in September, just after the whole like getting away from the bad company kind of thing. And then I gave my first talk at a conference in London at DevRelCon, and it was amazing and a great experience. And in the past year or so, I figured out that, so I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 27, 28, quite late. I'm now 40, and it took me this long to figure out that I'm probably also autistic. So I'm not bothering getting a diagnosis, but I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD, and I'm pretty open about it. I'm also, at about the same time, like in October last year, I started therapy again. So I was in therapy after my ADHD, like just before my ADHD diagnosis, after my dad died, because I kind of just, what in retrospect I know was autistic burnout, but back then I was just like, I don't know how to cope with life anymore. So I did therapy then for a long time, and then was fine, and then kind of like had this like deal with my therapist that I have a toolbox that she gave me, and I know how to use it. And if I ever figure out that I can't handle a situation, i.e. a tool is missing, then I can boomerang back to her. And I've done that a few times. And this time when I realized, okay, I need to start therapy again, I knew I needed to find a therapist to whom, as much as I love my previous one, but I needed someone to whom I didn't have to explain my identities. So someone who gets my gender, who gets my neurotype, etc. And I got really lucky. I found a therapist who works online, who's also neurodivergent, who's also non-binary, who's also an immigrant, and who has experience with CPTSD. Again, not officially diagnosed or anything, but yeah, that's the CPTSD is some stuff that I've been dealing with over the past year or so, and like I've always been dealing with it, but like actively been tackling. And turns out that's a roller coaster. So for the whole like, how am I doing today? I guess I'm all right. Like, I'm yeah. It's neither a particularly great nor a particularly bad day. It's just one of those days, and yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the last year has been terrible, but also been great. I also started volunteering for a humanitarian aid organization where I run a developer outreach program, and I'm now helping build up a tech department. Like honestly, I do so many great things. The only thing that's not great is trying to apply for jobs, because that knocks me for six every single damn time I try. So I've kind of stopped trying right now, which is where I'm at. Although I did finally, I have it before me, I finally got my tax number from the German efficiency is a lie. It took them 2.5 months almost to send me my tax number, but now I can sort of be self-employed on the side again. If I stay under a certain amount, I can also still enjoy insurance through my partner. So that's where I'm at right now. I guess it makes me not totally unemployed, but also not massively employed. Minor employed. So yeah, that's me in a very big nutshell. There's a lot, and yeah, I've also been a mental health activist for 15 years now or so. I founded tabularasa.org, which is a project that I never get around to because my life is always chaos and something else always happens. But the idea was always to interview people about their own mental health experiences to take away the stigma. And finally, now I'm here talking about this to you. So yeah, that's me.
This also took quite a while to get off the ground. I think I tried it a couple of times, and
15 years.
I think at some point.
No, it's not been 15.
Possibly.
It's been more like 10. But
yes, and I'd maybe say 5 years ish.
Okay.
And I think I wanted to interview Schalk, other Schalk, because of like shared like kind of mental health stuff, and he was like, hey, like, how about like we just co-host this, and I was like, man, like that's what I need, like
Yeah.
like just someone like that keeps me accountable to just show up, because there's definitely been a couple where I wouldn't have showed up if it wasn't for him, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple where he wouldn't have showed up if it wasn't for me. So yeah, that ends up working very nicely. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Are you based in Germany at the moment?
I'm originally from Austria. I lived in Scotland for 5 years, and I've now been in Germany for 3 years, and not very happy here. So that's something that's hugely been impacting my mental health. Living somewhere where you're not happy, like people always say, oh, but you know, when we moved away from Austria, it was like, you take your problems with you, and I was like, no, you don't understand, my problem is Austria, and we moved away and we didn't take out those problems. Obviously you take yourself with you. And then we moved here, and while I'm not like actively homesick every day anymore, like I used to cry almost every day because I missed Scotland so much. I can now occasionally listen to Caledonia without crying, things like that. But like I still like am actively unhappy here. Like it's Germany, and I don't fit in here, and we don't fit in here. Yeah, so we're planning to hopefully move to Spain this year.
So I'm curious to know. You mentioned you were self-employed. Was that in the world of tech, or was it something completely different?
Yeah. So when I started out in 2014, it was mostly. So since I came from journalism writing, I was mostly starting out writing blog posts for tech companies. Actually worked with the same company for 8 years because it was a really good fit. I was kind of in that niche where people, when they needed someone to explain something that they couldn't explain because they were being too technical, and also they appreciated being able to talk to someone who also spoke German. So that was when I still lived in Austria. Then I was the go-to person. And then from that, I just kind of got involved with a lot of startups through a co-working space, started doing some consulting work, and yeah, there's so much I've done. Like, for example, the company I worked for last year, that was in the DevOps space, which I'd never done before. But there, I worked with engineers to help them write blog posts and articles, which was really interesting because, yeah, that required me to learn very fast about a domain I'd never worked in before. It was really interesting, and I'm kind of the person you go to when you're like, oh, so we do this. If you're a product team, you're like, oh, we do this, and we would love to tell people about it if people don't understand what we say. Then you come to me and I'm like, let me translate this for you into, or help you write about it, or yeah.
Yeah, I often need that, especially when I was still teaching, like with my students. Like that's the most frustrating thing ever. It's like so. For example, you try and explain like something like abstraction or polymorphism or
What did
whatever.
you
Like
teach?
let's go with like software engineering,
Okay.
and also interaction design. Yeah, and or like let's go for a big one. Let's go dependency inversion like principle or whatever. And it's like it's literally the dependency between things, and it's inverted. Like, what is there not to understand? It's like the thing that was at the bottom is now at the top, and like the way that you design something is the other way around. And it's like so it's so frustrating because to me it's like, dude, it's so what is there not to understand? And
Yeah.
obviously, like it's not. Otherwise, people wouldn't study computer science. If it was just like, oh
Yep.
yeah, that explains it. Now I understand.
Yeah, no, I
So
see what you mean, yeah.
yeah, like that was a big learning experience for me.
I'm the person who comes and asks silly questions, but those silly questions help you understand usually. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I
100%.
think it's the journalism background a little bit, because I'm just really good at asking questions. Like literally, the talk I gave in September at DevRelCon was about how do you interview people,
Mm,
like
mm.
not for jobs
And
but for content.
yes, yes. And in terms of the positions you're applying for now, is it kind of the same nature?
Like, I'll be honest, there's not much out there for weird little niche sitters like me. Like, because the problem is I'm a jack of all trades. Like, I can literally do so much, and I learn extremely quickly. Um, but there are these like few things where I'm very very good at, and I found a couple of positions that were really interesting. That I like last year I applied for one. Last year I applied for a position as a technical communication specialist. It was literally titled that way, which I've not seen since and before. There were only two people who were qualified, me and someone else. We had 4 rounds, 4 interviews, two of which was like presenting a whole project and everything. And in the end, like I just like by this much lost to that person. And that was last year, and now things are way way worse from what I can tell. Like I I don't apply for jobs en masse. I don't, because like I said, the slight privilege of having a partner who can keep us going really helps, because it means I don't have to like I'm not one of those people who writes 1,000 job applications, you know, in the hopes that one of them will land. It's also because if I write 1,000 job applications, none of them are going to be particularly personalized. And like the thing is, I don't want anyone to hire me who doesn't know how to deal with me. Like I was literally this close yesterday to post on LinkedIn, please don't hire me. No, literally, seriously, do not hire me if you don't want an autistic trans weirdo on your team, because that's what I am, and I'm done hiding it. Would I have an easier time getting a job if I were to hide that I'm autistic? If I were to hide that I have ADHD, if I were to hide that I'm dealing with shit and that I'm a human and that I'm trans and non-binary and that I insist people don't misgender me and all of that stuff? Probably, but would I then be happy at that company who hired me only if I hide all of those things about me? No. In half a year, I'd be burnt out again, let's be honest. So I've applied to very specific, like I see a job or someone sends me a job, like that's really interesting. I'm like, oh yes, this one I will apply to, and then I'll put my all my effort in it, and I'll send an application. And but even then, like I I applied for a job just last month or so that I thought I was genuinely like I hit 95% of the requirements, which is rare. I thought it was a good interview. I got a first interview. I thought it was a great interview. I didn't get a second interview. I'm gonna ask for feedback. They're like, we don't give feedback. But they were like, it's not about your qualifications and it's not about your previous experience. I'm like, then what is it about? My personality? Like, is it my personality? Is it and they were like, that was I checked, like that was a fairly diverse organization already. Like they were German. So they were mostly white, obviously, but only mostly, but they were somewhat gender diverse. And so I thought like being trans would be fine, and I was also open about being autistic. And obviously I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't get further. If they just didn't like my face, you know what I mean? But it's just I was talking to my therapist about it, and they were like, "So you think you didn't get it because you were trans?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it must be the autism because they have trans people on the team." And my therapist, God bless him, they were like, "Okay, but what kind of trans people?" Which is how we got to, and this is probably very far from your own experiences, I assume, but I was like, well, the trans people they have on the team were she, theys. And the funny thing is my therapist is a she, they herself, but she immediately knew what I meant, which is not too trans, not too autistic, not too ADHD. And I run into this all the time. Like I literally, when I open my LinkedIn, the trans people, like there's this one guy I follow who's a trans man who's been looking for a job for 4 months, and he's just, it's never blatant, the transphobia, but you can always tell. And I think similarly with like the Satanism and ableism, like it's a time where so many people are looking for work that the people who get the jobs are the ones who are the least work for the company, I think. And my partner recently also said something that they had noticed, and they were like, well, they hire the people who are cheaper because they're available. Like it used to be that when I applied for a job, I stood out because of my skills. And if it wasn't the cheapest, that was okay because I had the skills. But now they have such a wide choice of people. I mean, you said what 500 people applied in just the first week.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think because of the way that hiring happens these days with all this like pro ATS or whatever that thing is called, that hiring AI software thing that runs through CVs. I keep hearing of people who are perfectly qualified, like even overqualified, not even getting filtered through because they don't have the right keywords. And I refuse to keyword stuff my CV and shit like that. So yeah, here I am. And I'm just like, if I can get the occasional freelance gig, that's cool. But also even so, like I've never had such a hard time finding freelance work. I've never had a hard time finding freelance work. I was turning clients away back then. These days, it's hard. Anyway, I went on for very long about this because it's just
Yeah.
impossible to find a job.
It's like don't apologize for kind of sharing all this. Like I think it's like it's super insightful because you're in such a unique position, like there are 1,000 people out there that did a boot camp, they never touched code 6 weeks ago, and now they're trying to find a job and they can barely write code. So, but I think that's
and
a
it
story
makes sense that they don't get jobs. It's not good, but it makes sense that they don't get jobs. Even the ones who did the boot camps during the first 2 years of the pandemic, even they're having difficulties now because they had like one job, maybe 1.5, and then they got laid off. But I'm an expert in my field, and I've had 10 plus years of experience in this field and like 20 years of experience with writing in general. Can't find a job.
Yeah.
What is it?
So I think like, oh yeah, like we can unpack that, and I'd be curious. I'd be curious. Like at this point, everything's speculation because we're kind of in the middle of it, and probably 5 years down the line, we'll
Yeah.
probably be able to look back retroactively. But so I'd also be curious to hear your own thoughts on why you think that's the case. But I think what I was trying to say is like. So Schalk actually told me that, hey, I know this person who's trying to find a job and whatever, and like let's maybe do an actual session where we talk about kind of the hiring thing, and me having gone through the process of hiring people and his own story, and like honestly, when he told me that, I just assumed, oh, you probably did a boot camp or something, and you're trying to break into the industry. So I think the fact that like it's actually like you have a very unique story, like, which I think is why I kind of would encourage you to actually share more than less. But yeah, so Skulk, I'd be curious what your, because I'd almost go as far as to say that like apart from kind of the mental health thing and so forth, I think the I'd probably consider you as someone that's like very what would be the word, like approachable, someone who's like very like easygoing, who's like, I can imagine that like if I were to interview you, I'd be like, yeah, that's a solid guy. And so what, and I was actually surprised like at how long it took you to get something. I'm not gonna lie. um I'd be curious whether you, and you have a lot of experience as well, so I'd be curious whether you kind of share that sentiment, whether like you were kind of also somewhat surprised by how difficult it was, and also why you think it took quite a while for you to line something up.
No, that's what I was going to say. For me, when the layoff happened, I thought, uh-oh, we're fucked. Because it's not just me, it's me, my wife, and 3 kids. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. Don't know how I'm going to explain this. I hid the fact that I was laid off for the best part of 3 weeks. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody in my household knew about it. Because I didn't want to tell them, because my wife especially was in a very, very low point just there. She was just getting out of it. And I was thought like, and I've been talking about the fact that, oh, I hate so much opening LinkedIn because I see all these people that are looking for jobs. Some people that's been doing this for 6 months, not getting anything. People who are saying, I'm about to lose my home. I'll literally do anything. It's such a hard thing. And then, for me to come out and say, by the way, I've been laid off. So I hid that. I try to pretend like everything's fine because I was still employed, right? It's just that the employment had an end date now. And so I was actually surprised by how quickly I was able to land something again. Uh, um, and I 100% have to say, I know that the fact that I've built up over the years, I've built up a big network of people that I have really good relationship with, a bunch of really good friends, that the day when I put that open for work thing on LinkedIn, like that post just blew up. Like the number of people that commented, reacted to it, reshared it. I think that thing like in 2 days had like 4,000 impressions and that kind of thing. So, people were literally contacting me coming out of the woodwork and saying like, oh, I see you're open to work. Do you want to chat about some possible opportunities? Like I didn't even ask them. Then I started applying for jobs, but I have the same thing where I always hear about people applying for like 300 jobs in one go. And I was like, but there's no way you can customize your CV for each of those. So obviously you create a very generic one and you just bulk send it to everybody.
They even use like automation and AI tools that apply for you, where I'm like, that only works if you're like have a very straightforward job description or two.
Yeah, like I have some nuggets to share there in terms of some stuff I've received. But yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, for me, I know the reason why one of the reasons I got the job way back at Mozilla was because I wrote a cover page that was very like open and honest, telling my story, telling why I want to work at Mozilla. I used the Mozilla brand colors. I used the Mozilla logo on the thing, the font, everything was just like perfect. And it stood out. They picked it up, they read it, they loved the story that I was telling. And that's how I got all the interviews. I mean, then it was obviously up to technical skill and being able to do the job and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that I even got the interview, that played a big role. So I was like, I'm going to continue doing that. And I did that this time as well. So therefore, I didn't apply to a whole bunch of things. But I think the one thing that maybe while it took a bit longer than maybe you would have thought is because I had this year where I was doing community work. And I think that counted against me because people thought like, oh, so you weren't doing code for a year and now you want to do code again. Well, let's talk about this year. So thankfully I have
That's so fucked up.
yeah, I have a GitHub thing where they can see like I've been doing code anyway. And also, by the way, like a large part of that community part was actually on MD and Web Docs where I was working directly with all the other people. So it wasn't like I wasn't doing any code. It was just I was experimenting with this idea of trying something else. Learned that it wasn't working out. Then I also, of course, I had to explain what happened at Boxy because I was there for such a short period of time. So I had to explain about no, it was a layoff and it's because the company's pivoting, because investor pressure and all that kind of stuff. So I think when people looked at my CV, I almost thought like I should leave that Boxy thing out later on. Like I was getting to a point 2 weeks ago, maybe, where I thought maybe I should just leave that out and kind of just say, no, I was doing my own thing as Mechanical Ink for a while because I thought that might be counting against me. And I do think it did, because some people did ask me that question, like how much time have you been coding over the last 6 months, whatever. Then the last two companies I was interviewing for, it was literally just a couple of interviews. Like it was like, I think with the one, it was 3. The only reason the one took longer was because there's a lot of complications involved in that. And I had to really be careful that I didn't get myself into a really tough situation there. And in the end of the day, the company I'm going to work for now just made sense in all the right areas. I love the people. I can see that I'm going to be a good culture fit there. The work sounds super interesting. So it's just like a great fit for me. So that was easy. But for me, it went fast. I was fully anticipating that I was going to have to somehow, I don't know how that would have happened, but I'm going to have to go through a month of no income. Because I started looking for opportunities on Upwork. And let me tell you, thanks to AI, good luck on Upwork these days. Because now people think like, oh, but I just don't know how to use these tools, don't have the time to learn them. But it's quick now, right? I give you a picture, you just feed it, and then you get the website. So it's insane there now. Now they're asking $150 to build an entire website. And so if you're going to come in and say, well, $1,000, they're going to tell you to go, oh, you're going to build me Facebook, a clone of Facebook for that amount. It's like, no. But no, so for me, it actually went quick. But yeah, that 3-week period where I had to keep things to myself and pretend everything was okay.
I don't know how you did that.
I don't know either.
That must have
It
been
was hell.
a huge impact on your mental
Oh,
health.
yeah.
And I can't believe your family wouldn't have noticed something was
They
up.
knew.
It's like,
They didn't know why, but they could tell. Because I had much more of a beard, by the way. I've just been messing with it so much that I've lost almost all of it. Honestly, I was plucking my beard like a chicken that's stressed.
yeah, but that's very much like a mental health reaction. Like that is, I mean, yeah, we pick at skin, we pluck out hairs. Doesn't always have to get to the point of, I think it's called trichotillomania. But yeah, I feel like watching people, you see the first signs of like mental health struggles. If you watch closely, you see them. If you know someone well, especially like when I'm in a bad place, like I think I have tics that are comorbid with my ADHD, and when I'm doing fine, it's fine. But when I'm in a bad place and I get stressed out, my tics get stronger. It's like it's not very. Talking about tics is one of the things that I still find very hard and stigmatizing. People with people who have Tourette's are doing a lot of work in destigmatizing tics, but I still find that very hard. Like, I can talk about my ADHD, I can talk about my autism, etc. But I have some tics. You know, that's where it gets difficult. But I feel like those are the things that always show quite quickly when we're stressed out and our mental health is impacted. What I'm curious is, in retrospect, do you think it was right to keep it from your wife for 3 weeks, or did you underestimate her and her ability to handle it?
It was probably a mistake from different perspectives. I think the one is just it destroys trust to some extent, because it's now the question is, what else are you keeping away, you know?
I mean, clearly you did it badly because your beard shows.
Yeah.
So now she just has to watch your beard.
Yeah. So I mean, no, I wouldn't recommend it. But you know how it is with life. In the moment you do things that you with the best intentions, right? And then oftentimes they blow up. I always find that saying so contradictory, and don't understand the whole thing about no good deed goes unpunished. I always, when I hear that, I'm like, God, that makes no sense. But sometimes it does feel like that, you know?
Yeah. It's I 100% get that. There's the idealistic side of me that is like, no, you shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't have done that, and I get the implications, because the thing is now, like, she's gonna ask you tomorrow, are you about to lose your job? And you're gonna be like, no, what? Why the hell are you asking that? And she's, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. Like, like, it's unfortunately like, then, like, it's never someone's never gonna take you at your word on that thing again. But like, I get that, because I was in a situation, like, I've definitely been in situations where, like, the idealistic thing would have been more about me, like living in accordance with my ideals, and less about the other person. It would have been more about me wanting to act in union with kind of what my ideals are, and it's just like, oh, like, they just have to deal with this, like, because, so for example, like, I was in a relationship at one point where I was thinking of breaking things off, and the person's, like, one of their parents died during that time, and, like, what do you do then, like, it sucks either way. Like, is it right to just, like, not break things off because you're like, they, like, their parents just died, or, yeah, I still don't know to this day what I should have done. And, like, and also, if you decide to wait, how long until you wait? Like, when is that point where it's like, okay, yeah, now I should probably start saying something? And, like, and it's the same thing, like, Schalk, like, at what point, let's say this went on indefinitely, at what point are you like, okay, I probably need to say, like, man, like, life is messy, it sucks, like, it's very easy. Yeah.
I'm also looking at this from a different perspective, which is, you took support away from yourself by not telling your partner. She could have supported you. And also, you kind of patronized her a little bit by deciding for her that she couldn't handle it in that time. Which, to me, would be much harder to handle than, like, any kind. It's not really a loss of trust.
Yeah.
In my worldview, because if this happened to me, I would know that my partner would have done it to protect me, but also, like, who the hell are you to protect me? I can protect myself. Like, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just very queer in this, but yeah.
No, I think it's also like there is no right answer because to this day they still keep it against me because I did end up
Oh, sorry. I meant like other Schalk situation. Your
oh
situation, I
oh
wouldn't want to be.
oh oh
Um,
oh, oh about the job thing. Yeah, that's one of the problems with having two skulks. But
yeah,
yeah,
like if he told his partner she could have supported him, and he wouldn't have had to go through it alone for 3 weeks, which might have made things easier. And she wouldn't maybe not wouldn't have wanted what the hell's up with my partner, things like that. So but this is obviously hindsight 2020. It's kind of it sucks, like, because but that's also like a general mental health topic. You don't want to be a burden, but if you try very hard not to be a burden, you become a burden very quickly by being a real shit and not talking about things.
the problem is I think like when you have all these dependency relations, things get really tricky. Because I think like this is something that really dawned on me one day is like so I've my entire life had a policy of like radical honesty, just like intentionally pushing myself to be honest, even the weirdest stuff, like just being like trying to push myself into places where I'm like honest to the degree that it makes me uncomfortable. And I think when I had kids, I kind of realized like you can't do that anymore. Like you can't like honesty itself isn't a virtue. Like I can't go and be like, hey, 1-year-old daughter, like I actually today I thought I didn't know whether I want to live anymore. And I had suicidal.
Also, your finger paintings are
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. I'm joking. Yeah, like, and you're not actually that fast. Like, I'm way faster than you. You think you can run so fast? Like, I'm just actually intentionally letting you win. I'm actually like, if you see me go at full speed, like, you don't have a chance, man. Like, you're such a slow shit. Um, but no, like, and it's tricky. And I think, like, so then in Skulk's kind of situation, it's like, okay, cool, but like, what if that now like took away from your wife's capacity to actually be there for the kids or whatever, because now like it's just like you have all these kind of relationships of dependency, and like it's like almost just a cascading effect, like I don't know, it sucks, man. But so like I want to talk a bit about cover letters, man, and like AI generated stuff.
Ugh.
Wow. Like
I mean, literally, AI has come from my job. Like any kind of writing jobs nowadays, they're not advertised as writing jobs. They're basically babysitting AI.
Yes.
They're literally advertised as you just need to handhold, like babysit ChatGPT and edit and make it better. And I'm like, that's not me.
It's
So,
interesting. I had a conversation. I have a friend actually in the Netherlands who he has a company that does technical writing. I've done some work for them. Like actually, I've done work for them. Like did a bit of work for Replit. I don't know if you know them, Schalk. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wrote their GraphQL tutorial, like under white label. And I asked him maybe a couple of months ago, like, yeah, this AI thing is probably like a shit show. And he's like, it hasn't affected business at all to the slightest. So
in technical writing, not yet, but I do more of like editorial
yes.
writing.
So that's I think maybe the distinction. Yeah, and it's like I wanted to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, although, like, just a few days ago, I saw a friend post on LinkedIn that the company that he works for, basically there's some weird website out there that auto generates documentation for people's products and then in a wrong way or something. So that definitely is affecting technical writing, only in a different way than it's affecting other positions in tech. But it's definitely affecting all of us because you can't even Google something.
Yeah, sure, but
days
that's if you see the technical writing as the end and not a means to an end. So if you have to create documentation purely just because you have to do it and your boss said you should, sure, yeah, but like if it's actually
No, this is another company trying to basically misdirect people. I haven't truly looked into it. Like, why?
Yeah.
It's really weird, but that is an
Yes.
AI thing that's
So
apparently
so to
happening.
me, like generally, I would actually consider like the document, even in my own code that I document, the stuff that AI writes to me is actually a very good example of what you shouldn't document, because those are things that can be inferred just by looking at the thing alone. So like the stuff that you're going to document is going to be stuff that's not in the context that you're looking at right now. Like, why is this here? Why was this decision made, and so forth. So it's actually interesting. But yeah, but like in terms of like cover letters and stuff, man, you're like I've seen some stuff. Like so many. Why am I excited to work at Schalk? Oh, what? Okay.
What the
I'm
fuck?
like, okay. Like, so obviously they just, the prompt was just like, okay, created a job application for Schalk or whatever. And ChatGPT thought Schalk was probably a company.
I could never send something like that. Like maybe I'm just too
So,
autistic or too much of a millennial,
yeah.
but I couldn't.
Okay, but here's the other thing. So there was also a ton of, like those little square brackets that ChatGPT does, like where it's like, where it tells you insert your own thing here. I've seen so many of those square brackets. Like I can like just
No.
like at a glance now, I'm like muscle memory to spot like a little square bracket in a paragraph. I think they were just like, oh, insert something here about your last job, like experience or whatever. But like I don't necessarily see that as a loss, because and it might be different. I don't know how many people applied for the job that you applied for, Schalk, but so Kai, obviously the one you mentioned was just like two of you, so I don't know whether this dynamic holds for that.
I mean, I assume more people applied, but only 2 of us were viable, is what I was told. Yeah.
Oh, just the interviews. So I got about 500 applications. So that, and like I actually wrote it started as a LinkedIn post, and then I actually went way over the character limit, and I just turned it into like a GitHub guest, and I just put it on there and share the link, where kind of like just general feedback. So, and I think, okay, there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. I also like did a bit of a thing where I was like, I'm going to set myself the goal of responding to every single person that applies until they end the conversation. And that was a great experience. Would I do it again? No way. Because it's just like it sucked so much time. But I think it was something I was curious about. Is just like, and it this is like a personal experiment for myself, I guess. I was just curious, like like what would happen if you just like not ghost people, and like I actually had some really interesting conversations with people about just like like most of it was like, hey, wow, I didn't expect a response, and whatever, and like then we just chatted from there, and I was just like, yeah, good luck on your journey, and whatever, but I wouldn't do it again. And I think that's one of the things is like it's such a time sink hiring at this point, because there's just so much content being thrown at you, whether AI generated or not. It's so let's go with the scenario where it's 500 people, and this is one of the pieces of feedback that I wrote. Is let's say I spent 5 minutes looking at every candidate. Like that is like, well, like now you're like almost like to, I don't know, like I'm not going to do the math, like 30 hours just to even decide who I'm going to interview. And I was upfront. I didn't download a single PDF. I didn't download it. Like all I looked for was GitHub link and LinkedIn link. And I clicked on the LinkedIn, quickly scanned, like, do they have any prior experience? If they don't, probably I'm just gonna like not consider them. And we can talk about like
Did you have cover letters?
I didn't read any of that. So like
Okay.
it was.
So you literally.
I
Okay.
scanned for links. Yeah, in it. So I scanned for a GitHub link.
Okay, but you didn't actually read the cover
No,
letters, but there were
no,
cover letters.
no.
Okay.
Like I didn't open a
See,
single
that would
CV.
so disadvantage me because
Exactly.
I shine in the cover letter
Yes.
because I have a portfolio career of weirdness.
But see, but this is the trick is now that like with AI is like I'm like I can just speak from my subjective experience. Like even in this piece that I wrote, where I was like, okay, here's some general advice that I would give everyone that applied for this position, and I actually just sent the link on to everyone that applied. I was very clear in terms of this is just my subjective experience. I actually do think that like it's very circumstantial, but like I mean, this is the decisions that I made. So at the very least, like I can share openly about kind of my own process of working through this. And I think that the problem is just like that. Like it's so easy to create words that I'm not going to take the time to even engage with words to even find that.
Whoa. Easy to create words? As a writer, I beg to differ. I have seen people create words very, very badly.
No, it's easy to create words. No, I think it's easy. Like you just chat GPT prompt that thing. Like it's not. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's not easy to like. I'm saying words. You know, like if you go by the Mark Twain thing as well of like, what did he say? Like writing is easy. You just cross out the wrong stuff or the wrong words. So I actually think like writing is about negation. But like actually just getting spitting out like vomiting like words and stuff is easier now. It's just generating words, and I think that's the thing. Like I'm just getting all these emails with this super long formal why I am excited to work at Schalk. I am a candidate that really shines. Like unfortunately, like if I were to spend 30 seconds on every applicant just seeing if this is like bullshit or not, like that adds up to 500 candidates. So no, I agree with you, and I feel really badly about this. And I actually in that kind of article that I wrote, I said like I don't know what the answer is. It sucks. I hate it. I hate the fact that I can't engage with the person, and it used to be like that. And I'm not bemoaning it, you know, like it's kind of the I don't necessarily know whether the way the industry was previously, where like all the power was in the developers' hands because there was just such a shortage. Whether that was healthy as well, because I think there's a lot of stuff now where the standard of what is considered good software is just so low now, just because like people would just hire anyone. But yeah, it sucks. I hate it. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get a meaningful read on whether someone is a good candidate without that being a really bad return on investment in terms of my time. Because I would have to go through like 500 to whom it may concern, you know, ChatGPT like generate the stuff to get you yours. And unfortunately to me, in terms of return on investment, that's a really bad use of my time. I don't know what to do about that.
I think the problem is, as you say, ChatGPT, because before we had ChatGPT, you still had to write that thing yourself. You could copy paste it, but you still had to write it yourself. And if your if your cover letter was just shit and showed that you're a boring ass person who can't string 5 words together normally, then people are like, oh, okay, goodbye.
Yes, you'd be able to tell it from the first paragraph. Yes,
could stand up.
Yes,
exactly. But nowadays, it's just and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, because we keep hearing as candidates that you need to like tick certain boxes with regards to keywords and your CV and your cover letter and whatnot, and then everyone throws it into ChatGPT, and you're like over here like, oh, I'm writing my cover letters by hand, like I'm crafting my cover letter, and you're not reading it, and I can't blame you if you get 500 of them, and 489 are probably ChatGPT. Like I don't blame you for not combing it for the rest. But that's the whole problem. Like, and then additionally, we didn't used to have 500 people applying for one position. Like, this has happened because tech is broken right now.
And I think the hiring process is broken, yes.
The hiring process is broken, but tech specifically is broken because we pretend like when my partner did a boot camp in Scotland at Code Clan in 2017, I want to say. I think 2017, yeah. At that point, the thing was in Scotland, yeah, we need 10,000 people in tech. We're short 10,000 developers. And they did Code Clan. And then a few cohorts later, they were still saying we need 10,000 people in tech, but it was getting less and less true. And then the pandemic happened, and then people were like, "Oh, I'm going into tech because you can work remotely." And we have an complete imbalance. We've never been able to handle juniors. Like, most companies don't know how to handle juniors and are unwilling to handle juniors. Now, on top of juniors, we have bootcamp graduates. We have people who've never managed to get a job because the market was already flooded. So we have a market that's flooded with people who don't have enough experience. At the same time, we have a broken tech economy where boards and stakeholders and whatnot are getting people laid off, even though the company's making a profit, because you can't tell me all of those layoffs are necessary. You just can't. And at the same time, I'm also seeing that very experienced people are having a hard time finding a job. Like, I know a guy who is extremely highly qualified, a specialist for Kubernetes, distributed systems, etc. And even he's having a hard time finding a job and or clients at the moment. Like, it affects all of us to some degree. And then obviously it affects you on the other side because you're getting 500 applications, that should not be happening. Those people can't all be a good fit for that job. They're not. But everyone is desperate. And I don't know how to fix it.
Yes. So, like,
I mean, I know how to fix it, which is eat the billionaires, but
yeah, no. Well, that's not something you individually can do.
It would fix it would fix things.
I'm really scared for juniors right now, because if they think they had a hard time in the past, it's much worse now. And it's because the market is flooded with super experienced senior developers. And companies are sucking them up at the moment because they can get them for a premium cost, right? Cost to company is much, much lower than you would have paid for this person 6 months ago. But at Mozilla, for example, if we opened up a senior engineering role on MDN, for example, we would get 2,000 applications within 2 days, and we'd have to close the job. So and that goes through an algorithm 100% to whittle it down to about 50. Of the 50, there'll be 2 or 3 folks that goes through them, and of them, 10 people will get an interview. Like, that's not really something you want to hear. Like, I knew that, and I wish I didn't, because every time I would send in my CV and I'd make all that effort to craft the home written, like my own words, cover letter and everything. And I'm like, am I throwing this into a pile of 2,000 of these? Like, it's scary.
Why do I even bother yeah.
But with that said, I think the thing that is super important now, and I am 100% sure like this has benefited me, is you got to do the content creation thing. You got to put yourself out there in a million ways, by blogging, making videos, engaging on all the social media things, being on GitHub, even if you don't want to be on GitHub, like some people don't go to GitHub, they're on GitLab, or they're on, one of the other platforms there are. But in the end of the day, if people know you're already in front of the queue. Just because they can click a link and they can see, oh, look at this dude. This guy is there. He's speaking to this person. He knows that person. He's connected with that. Already you get pushed up. But that's once you've gotten through the big algorithm.
Yeah, I would say that works for software engineers, but not if you, like me, are in tech but have a more complicated job description, because it's really hard for me to be like, this is me. I can do many different things. But also, and I want to bring this back to mental health, this whole like you have to do the content creation thing is finding a job. We always say this, but I say finding a job is a whole ass job in itself. But the pressure and like mental exhaustion that comes with the whole you have to keep putting yourself out. And I see this on LinkedIn. I see people going, oh, I know I have to keep putting myself out there more. Okay, so I'm writing now, I'm saying this and I'm saying that. And through that, we're also creating such a huge swath of kind of content for content's sake. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when the last time I read an original idea on LinkedIn. I tend to read the rants. I tend to read people ranting about their job search because that is always individual experience and so on. But the posts where people are clearly writing them to position themselves to I've done a lot of work in branding, and people's like, okay, how do I create a personal brand? I'm like, don't bother. It's just fucking pressure and you don't want to have to keep it up. But that's what I see happening now, and I think this is grinding people down even more. So while not finding a job is harrowing, then having it put all on you by, oh, you just need to be more present, you need to stand out more, insane. That's like actors going to auditions with thousands of people and just telling them to just be more, I think I've gotten to the point where I've just stopped applying unless I absolutely feel the need to. Again, a luxury I have, but if I didn't have that, and if I wasn't so COVID cautious and I was living in a city, I think I would just get a job in hospitality again. I've done the so-called shit jobs before, less harrowing than constantly putting yourself out there, and creating content and begging for people to just listen to you for 5 seconds instead of filtering you out with the AI.
So
I genuinely think that we're creating a mental health disaster here.
I know, like
widespread.
it's already that ship has sailed. Like 5 years ago, even when things were going really well, like in the middle of the boom, like before the bubble burst, like I think we were at because I did a talk on mental health in tech, and I think the official stats at that point was 53% of people in the tech industry self-report as burnt out. So that means that if you take a random person from the tech industry, just pluck them out, like if the chances are higher that they would self-report as burnt out as opposed to not. Like the anomaly would be if they're not burnt out. And that was when things were going well. That was like before all of this happened. So Schalk, I think like I don't disagree with you, but I would push back insofar that I think you underestimate or underappreciate the actual amount of like direct human connections that you build. That perhaps part of that is a side effect of the content stuff. You have to engage with people like individually and DM them and have conversations with them and have things like this to create that content. But I don't think it's about the content. Like I definitely I think the parts like we haven't even met in person, but I think like we've had a lot of actual instances where we attended the same kind of virtual meetup, or hey, I'm working on some open source project, and you're like, hey, even this podcast itself, So I think like the part of you that's more like, hey, let me engage with this person, let me actually send this person a direct message, like with no ulterior motive, with no like, hey, I want to like kind of position myself as an industry expert or make myself appear employable. Just like, hey, dude, like I think what you're doing is really cool. Tell me more about it. I think that, and honestly, this 500 position thing, the person that I ended up hiring was a guy I just spoke to at a meetup once. Like, and when he applied, I just bumped him up to interviewing immediately without like looking, because like hiring is about it's about risk management, and I think the dark side of that is Kai, what you spoke about like if you're open about like, hey, like autistic tendencies and all of that stuff, like whether it's warranted or not, someone that's hiring that doesn't know anything about you, when they have two options of the same person, the one having potential for more risk than the other one, like I can't blame them that they're like, I'm gonna take the vanilla option. Like, do I think that's no? Do I think that is good? Do I think like
Well, the
me?
spicy brain option often comes with better performance, more creativity, and so on as
Sure.
well. So
Yes. Like so. So
it's
once again,
not.
do I condone that? Do I think
Yeah.
it's good? By no means. No. Like by no means. You know, myself as well. I'm pretty open about my mental health stuff. And you know, I speak pretty openly about it, and sometimes I have mini panic attacks where I'm like, um, what if one day I'm in a position where I'm desperate for work, and they're like, yeah, we can't have this guy having like a mental health episode and just disappearing and no one knows where he is, and like he has access to the server and we don't know how far his sprint tickets are and whatever. Like, but so even if that's unfounded, even if that's like 0.000000001%, like putting that against someone who doesn't have that factor, like, you know, like even if it's
Nah, someone where you don't know they have that factor.
Sure,
That's the thing.
but like also,
So, like, if I have the choice between a wild card who seems like they have it all together and the person that tells me they have experienced mental health struggles and they know how to deal with them, I will go with the person who has experienced the mental health struggles.
Yeah,
because I know they'll tell me in time, hey, this is too much. They won't burn out on me.
Agreed.
So
but it's about what would be the word? Like it's you know, it's that thing about no one gets fired for buying IBM. You know, it's kind of like, sure, like, but I agree there. But then you can be like, oh, I didn't know this about this person. I didn't like I'm absolved here because I didn't know, they didn't share that. So you know, at the end of the day, people are looking out for themselves, and
but that's the thing. But that's where the ableism comes in,
I
and
know,
the
it
Satanism, and the lack
sucks.
of education, and the stigma
Yeah,
attached
it
to it.
sucks.
Because even you doing this podcast talking openly about mental health would not go with the person who discloses their mental health
Exactly.
issues, which just tells you how fucked up that is.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, I just wanted to say, about the networking thing earlier. Like, I still tell everyone asking me for advice that networks are amazingly important, and I've gotten every single job or freelance gig through my network. It's just that right now it's difficult and not even that is working. But again, it's like having experienced mental health issues doesn't make you more of a risk. I would push back there. It doesn't make you more of a
I
risk.
agree. Like I myself,
it just makes you more of a known variable. In fact, that's better from my point of view.
Yes, agreed. But like also, which is why I'm saying that hiring is broken. And I think I wanna like unpack that a bit, because when I say it's broken, I don't mean it sucks or it's not, you know.
No, it's broken.
It's literally
really
not
is,
getting anyone involved in the process. The result.
Yeah, because I see recruiters say that they don't get any decent applicants.
It's literally broken.
And I'm like, well, you're asking for the wrong things.
Yeah,
and they're like, well, we're being told to ask for that.
Yeah,
and then,
it's literally broken. It's not broken, because I don't get a job or whatever. It's not even getting the person who's advertising that position the best candidate for that job. Because it's just like, and you know, you mentioned this thing about like even senior people, like, you know, like not being like Carl Simpson, the guy who wrote Schalk, Neethling. You'd probably know the guy who wrote You Don't Know JavaScript. That was required reading for all the courses that I taught. He had this whole thing on LinkedIn where he like for several months couldn't find a job. Like he's literally one of the authorities on the language.
I saw one of the main accessibility people look for a job on LinkedIn recently, and I almost fell out of my chair.
And so like that leads you to the only conclusion that the current process is broken. Like any company would like fall over themselves to hire someone like him, but he's just not getting through because the system is so broken. Like they're not even getting like what they seek. And I don't know how to fix it, and I actually think like no one does. Like this, like even Facebook.
I do know how to fix it.
Well, I
actually know how to fix it.
Go for it. But
it's a culture problem.
But we're not eating anyone this time.
It's a culture problem. No, okay. No, we have this saying in German, which is the fish always stinks from the head down, smells from the head down. It's a culture problem. The culture in tech is so broken that that trickles down into hiring, and that's because it's all about saving money, efficiency, using AI, desperately wanting to find a use for AI, by the way. And like, I don't blame the singular recruiter for being shit, or the singular hiring manager. It's what they get from further up. And that, like, I wouldn't just say culture within a company, but culture in tech. That's what we need to fix. But I feel like that's what I said 10 years ago, and we were doing quite well trying to get it to be better, and now we're here. So I'm not quite sure what happened. Like we were like working on getting tech to be less ableist and more inclusive, less homophobic, less transphobic, less misogynistic. And while we were busy dealing with all of that, they just fucked things up massively at the top. That's how it feels like sometimes. But like genuinely, I think it is a culture problem.
But even inside companies, things are broken. Like, because just today I learned about, I'm not going to name the company, but it might be obvious when we're talking about, but a company where I used to be, like they went over the engagement survey. By the way, they went now over the engagement survey from 7 months ago. So already the person who kind of leaked this stuff said like, it's much worse now than it was 7 months ago, but okay. And because of what came out there, they are now being forced to take 30 hours of live in-person online, but in-person training about all these various subjects. It's not recorded. So if you're taking leave and because of that, you'll be missing one of these, you need to let them know beforehand so they can move you into a different cohort to make sure you attend this. So what they're saying is what this comes across as to the people who this is happening to is they're essentially telling you, remember the next time you fill in an engagement survey, if you give us bad points, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 30 hours of senseless live training. So you better make sure you give us better scores next time.
What's that? The beatings will continue until morale improves.
They use that exact meme in their thing. They use that exact meme.
So they're like asking for feedback and then punishing people based on the feedback.
Yes. Yeah.
This is why I never fill in any surveys.
So,
like the company I was with last year, they had this like monthly HR survey. I always clicked on it and then I was like, nah, I'm gonna close it again. First of all, I didn't believe it was actually anonymous because like I'm not silly. I'm no fool. But also I was just like, this is useless. First of all, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna read it. No one's actually going to change anything. They sent me like belatedly. They were like, oh, we want to do an exit interview with you. And I was like, yeah, you probably don't want to hear what I have to say. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah. That was it. They were not like, no, we really care. We want to change. No, they knew full well they done fucked up, and but like that's what I mean by culture. You know, it's just they don't care. They just want good numbers on paper, and if the survey says people don't like us, then we are going to punish them until they do. Like it's insane. I kind of want to ask what kind of classes these people have to take, but I also am worried I won't like the answer very much.
Positive thinking. So my solution is actually like way more straightforward, and I think so. First and foremost, I think like we're kind of in a damned if we do, damned if we don't situation now. I don't think there's any. I have a bit of a like fatalist approach to where we are currently. Like there's too many people in the industry. There's not enough work for all those people. Like there's only one way out. Like there's no way. Like once again, like am I condoning this? I'm saying this is right. No, this is fucking horrible. But like there is just people need to not be in the industry anymore. But then the question is, how did we end up here, and how could we have prevented ending up here? And I honestly think the answer is unions. I think if we had proper tech unions, then the unions would like your like the kind of union structures would like kind of throttle this intake a bit. Because like
Would unions have prevented
I think
the
so.
unhealthy
No,
hypergrowth?
no. I think
Because I think that's what caused it.
no. So I think the thing is
The too many people issue. How do you think that came about?
because like boot camps was just like feeding people into this thing with no concern for quality. So for example, so I have some friends who are pilots, and so they have a union, and so what happens is, so yeah, like this is not the States. Oh no, you're in Germany. You're not in the States. Sorry.
I'm in Germany,
But
big on unions in
yes.
Austria and
So
Germany as well.
and like so like what's been happening over the years is like planes are becoming more and more automated, meaning that more often than not pilots are just babysitting the planes. And so there's two things that can happen here now. The one
Didn't need to know that.
so so basically there's two things that can happen here. Now the barrier to entry can get so low that anyone can just do a boot camp and become a pilot because it's so easy to fly a plane. Or if you have a union structure, the union can enforce actual quality control. So they can be like, okay, cool, like now our internal training and our own internal accreditation or whatever, like all that's going to happen now is like we are just going to like demand more from pilots in terms of what would constitute a good pilot. So I think like this is unfortunately the thing is like the only way to prevent this is as the market gets like flooded, the demands for quality just goes up and up and up, But the problem is with the current system, that signal is too far down the line. By the time like it's like cool, the market is full, there's no more space, it's already like 2 years down the line, and like we've built all this shit tech and we've just been pushing stuff out and we've just been hiring people, and now we realized, oh, actually we just built stuff too cheaply, we built too much stuff. There are people that were working in the industry that kind of like had like no business actually building software, but we just like threw people at this problem, and through like it's almost like the like so just leaving it up to market forces alone is such a destructive way to regulate it. So it is going to get regulated now. It's kind of going to readjust again, and like people are going to fall out and whatever, but it's such a like such a dramatic shift. Like at some point you need a bit of some mechanism that can like push, like control that throttle a bit. And I think like by having some type of tech union type structure, at the very least, you can have some internal kind of certification and qualification and stuff that kind of regulates that a bit, like in terms of formalizing.
So you're saying professional standards?
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
Professional standards.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there's always a delay. Like the forecasting doesn't seem to work, because I remember when I was in school, they told us, don't become a teacher. We have too many teachers. Now they're like, shit, we don't have enough teachers. Why didn't you become a teacher? And I'm like, because you told us not to, because there were too many then. And that is a bit of an issue, but also I feel like in tech, it's just like blown out of proportions because of the boot camps, as you say. And there were a lot of good boot camps, but there are also a lot of shit boot camps. And the problem is that the market isn't actually selecting the cream of the crop and giving them jobs, but the market is using AI to select whoever is using the best keywords, which is why the regulation of it doesn't work. And then where like a lot of people pivoted into tech, where the hell are you going to pivot from tech? I've been thinking of becoming a therapist because I think I'd be good at it, and I have the life experience. I can't afford to become a therapist. I literally cannot afford the money it would take to become a therapist.
Do a therapist
aside from all of the gatekeeping that comes with it being exactly, there's no boot camp for it. And it's also additionally gate capped through academia, which it's funny because they're saying we need more neurodivergent and more queer therapists, and I'm neurodivergent, and uni was hell for me, so that thought alone is ugh. But yeah, no, where are you going to pivot?
Yeah. See, so that is the
The
dark
only
side of it.
solution, yeah, like the only thing we can do is UBI. It's time for universal basic income, and then we solve this whole problem. But again, leads me back to eating the rich, which you didn't seem to be a fan
Oh
of.
no,
Which I guess
I'm
is
all a
fine.
fan.
But I guess a bit of barbecue sauce would fix
No,
it.
like I'm massive fan. I'm a massive fan of eating the rich, but like it's like as something that's achievable within my locus of control and in my lifetime. Um, I find like that's maybe something that I use to absolve myself of doing stuff more meaningful stuff. Is waiting for some type of big, yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it's some like for me personally, that is too easy of a. It's just too tempting of a thing to absolve myself from. Like, let me try and do something meaningful, because one day that's going to sort everything out. But yeah,
But please don't underestimate what you did by writing back to every single one of those people, because you made a difference.
Yes, but I wouldn't do it again, and I wouldn't recommend anyone do it.
Fair enough. But like maybe the solution is to like not personally reply to everyone, but make a list and send a mass thank you but no thank you email. Like just not ghosting people. That is such a like I find rejection less demoralizing than just no reply at all.
Yeah, but it's once again, but also like I was ghosted by so many applicants as well. So like it's also I can also get at some point you're just like, no, fuck this. But yeah, I literally ask someone.
But that's because they're sending out 500
I know, but it's just frustrating. It's like someone sends me an application and then I ask them, oh, yeah, cool, like I see this and this and this. Tell me more about this, and they don't reply, and I'm like, dude, you messaged me. Like, why are you ghosting
also,
me?
to be fair, sometimes I've had replies from companies land in spam before. So
fair
that's
enough.
Actually a huge issue that is newish, and I don't know why.
No, this was on LinkedIn. This was on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But like, it's like this is weird. It's like you messaged me. If you didn't want to have a conversation, why did you message me? Yeah. It's not like I reached out to you. Like, why? Well, it's weird. I don't know. It's
like we've really taken the humanity out of it, the whole process, and I think that's what's making this so terrible. And it's just that it breaks my heart. Like I'm lucky. We're not doing super well, but I'm lucky to have a partner who's a software engineer who went to a good boot camp and is sitting in a niche that is still doing well. I mean, touch wood, but they're doing C# and working in the energy field and green energy. So I'm lucky. But like I see the post on LinkedIn that people post, and other Schalk mentioned that before. People saying, I don't know how to pay my mortgage. I'm 3 months behind. We're gonna be homeless. And that's like, there's gotta be some solution here, because we cannot just make people unhoused en masse. But that's what's happening in tech. And this is not all bootcamp graduates, beginners, etc. This is highly qualified people who keep being told, oh, you're overqualified, which is code for we found someone cheaper or we think you'll get bored. This is people who are highly qualified and just not getting hired because companies are like, no, we don't want anyone who knows what they're doing and maybe will tell us what we're doing is wrong. We want someone cheap we can boss around. I don't know how to get how we get. It's a mess, and it's creating, even once this direct economic crisis will be fixed, the long-term mental health impact this will have. Not even if you weren't laid off during that time, even if you were lucky enough to not have to look for a job during that time, seeing your company and other companies in tech do this to people, like I think collectively a lot of us have lost trust, and yeah, we don't trust tech anymore. At least that's the feeling I'm getting, and we don't understand it anymore because people are like, what is happening?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I was, I think when I was about 6-7 years at Mozilla or something like that, I thought I would never leave. It honestly felt like a big family of just friends making cool stuff,
Mhm.
and you're working with some of the best people in the industry. You're learning so much. You're getting to do all this cool stuff that seemed like everybody right up to the C levels honestly cared about it. You had a voice. Even if you just joined the company, you can speak up without any fear of retribution. And somehow in the last 4 years, it just took a massive nosedive to the point where now it's just another corporate company.
I mean, this happened ages and ages ago, but I used to be a Google user from very early on because Google were the good guys, and then they just abandoned that completely. And then, like you said, Mozilla used to have a good reputation, went down the drain. Things like I don't know, but like so many companies that had a good reputation, and then either they were taken over and things went to shit, or the culture changed, or it's just I cannot think of a single company that hasn't thrown up red flags. Like I'm in a few whisper networks because I'm in a lot, like I have a few marginalizations that land me in these whisper networks usually. And I can't think of a single one without red flags. And I'm not saying I can't think of a single perfect company. No, I'm just saying I can't think of a single company where I'm like, ugh, where I'm not like, maybe don't apply there because, I've heard bad things. You're trying to think of one, aren't you? Because you
No,
can't.
I can't think of any company at scale. So like the examples would be like
Yeah.
small, like the WinRAR guy
Mm.
and whatever. But yeah, like it's all. But I think that's what it demands to be competitive at that scale. Is like you can't at some point like you can't be competitive at that scale
Why?
because
But why?
because because that like because okay, so like this is like another.
Because capitalism.
Yeah, sure, but like I also think like so there's other things as well. I think one is that like I don't actually think software scales that well, and I actually don't think we should build software with these big teams. Maybe we shouldn't have a one company that has a calendar, has an email client, has a browser. Like I think the tendency, like I think this is something we're globally gonna realize eventually. I think we're still in the processes of actually like really coming to grips with this, but I just think like software doesn't scale very well. Like you maybe shouldn't have like five big companies that just build these massive services and just like eat up all these small little companies. Like you're actually making things worse by like yeah. And like that's my anecdotal experience as well. Like I just like when you're working in a small team, like you just like the level of software that you build is just of such a standard compared to working in a team of 500 employees. So I don't know. I think we should just like I think we're eventually gonna get. I think the tech world is gonna fragment again eventually once that kind of sets in that realization that maybe actually consolidating everything under this big single software behemoth like is actually very inefficient, and it's very hard to coordinate something as complex as software with such a centralized approach. But yeah.
It's not just software. Charities also notoriously waste a lot. Like a lot of,
Yes.
if you donate to a big charity, a lot of your money is wasted because it goes into overhead. Whereas if you donate to a smaller
Yeah.
one, a lot of
No,
more ends up
Women
no,
who
and
into
it's
the
the
women
same
who
with
code.
education as well. Like yeah, like I
Oh
genuinely.
God, the women who code thing. Don't get me started on how terrible that went.
Because
Jeez.
somebody had a look at their last public statements, and the bulk of the money was going to salaries, and the bulk of that was going to top level C-level employees. The same thing's happening at Mozilla. I mean, that is one of the biggest reasons why people are up in arms, is because of the insane salary that the ex-CEO is getting compared to anybody else in the company. It's just mind blowing.
There needs to be a percentage limit on that. On like C-cell salaries.
But I mean, like two companies that's doing something interesting is Igalia and Boku. because they have a flat structure. There's no owners. There's no C-level. When you join the company, you co-own a piece of the company. So everybody has equal saying. Boku wasn't like that, but they've switched over to that. But Igalia has been doing that for a long time. So that is, it's I think it's called worker-led companies, something like that.
I once interviewed someone about like very specific company setup stuff. I can't think of it now, but like a bit more of like a community minded, um, almost communist way of running companies that seems to work well. Where like employees have a stake in it, but not in the stock options way, but in the you own a piece of this, which means you have a say in this way. And I think that maybe that's the future. I don't know.
Kai, I'm curious whether you know about Tech Workers Coalition.
No, I haven't
They're
heard of
doing
that.
pretty cool work. I've been following them for a very, very long time. I think this is where a lot of my union Kool-Aid comes from as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, check them out. I think they've been in the space now for like almost 5 years, kind of like working in this space of like kind of collective action in tech and so forth. Yeah, I'm actually surprised you don't know about them, but yeah. So
Yeah, no, I'm. See, a lot of people don't see me as a tech worker. A lot of people are like, "Oh, but you're not technical." I'm just technical in a different way. Like, I barely code. I mean, I do code a little bit, and I'm learning Python, and I do generally have the brain for it. I just don't have the time for it. Um, but I have like the ability to understand technical, highly complex technical concepts on a high to medium level, and then explain them onwards, which is technical. It's just I have resigned myself to not being able to find a job right now. Like I need to wait for tech to get better again, because this isn't gonna work. Like they're not they're hiring like the bottom of the basic needs pyramid is what's getting hired now. People like me with like just we like we've seen DevRel decline badly. That's because it's a luxury good for tech, and the same unfortunately goes for people who create content in any way, shape, or form, and that affects me. I'm just gonna try to keep afloat with like little side projects. So I'm helping a friend who wants to be self-employed, and I'm helping them with their website, like come up with like just how to, I guess it's personal branding, but like how to present themselves for the clients they want, and I'm gonna help them with the website copy as well, and that's kind of the stuff that I'm doing at the moment, and I've always enjoyed doing that, so that's fine. Um, if I can find a way, if we can find a way for people, I don't know, maybe some company wants to sponsor Distribute 8 so we can at least get me a little bit of a stipend for running the program, that would be grand. If not, I'll get by somehow. But I think like people have also stopped sending me job ads because I think they have felt my despair. I've a lot of good people who like think of me whenever they see something, but I think they've also understood that it's just bad right now. And it's not just the thing that's helped me to bring it back to mental health. The thing that's really helped me, which is obviously shit for everyone else as well, but like the thing that's helped me seeing that it's not just me. It's not just me with my like weird portfolio career who doesn't fit into like any kind of box. It's people who very much fit into the box and are very senior, not finding jobs. It's people who were literally a friend of mine applied for a technical documentation position. I was like, "You're perfect for this. Are you telling me you didn't get an interview?" Because I applied for the same position because someone referred me, but I didn't think I would even get invited, but I was sure she would get an interview, and she didn't. And I just don't understand. So, but all of this has helped me feel better about it in a way for like my own mental health, in the sense of it's not
no,
me, it's
100%.
them.
And then like I think that doesn't say like it can still be you, but like this is not an indicator. Like
Gee, thanks.
well, like so the thing is, it's obviously like this isn't the indicator to use whether it's you or not because it's fundamentally
Yeah,
broken. So yeah, sure, it might be you,
yeah.
but like this is not a useful indicator for that because like people are very clearly not, who are very clearly like the best candidates don't kind of like even get picked up. But
they don't even get invited.
Yeah.
They don't even get an email back. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we started this, I think one of the things we were most, or not most concerned about, but one of the concerns we had was, could this backfire? Us, me and other Schalk, being so open about the
I
fact
think the
that,
jury's still out on
we're
that.
literally saying,
But yeah.
I mean, it didn't bite me this time, so maybe that's a good sign. I don't know, but it was something we did think about. Like, if we're gonna like have this monthly podcast where we're saying about how we're not doing great and we're struggling and we this and that and the other and sharing everything just openly, could this come back to bite us in the ass down the line? And the fact that we had to think about that is just bonkers. Like, it's like, what?
I'll say this, it's gotten a lot better ever since I started mental health activism back in, I think, 2014 or whatever. Like, there is less stigma. There is more celebrities speaking up about depression, postnatal depression. I think bipolar disorder at this point is already talked about, ADHD, maybe autism a little bit. There's still like these like higher stigmatized topics, borderline personality disorder being one, for example. Dissociative identity disorder is still widely misunderstood. Schizophrenia is still widely misunderstood, and all of those are extremely stigmatized. But we've come a long way ever since I started doing this. The fact that we're now talking about this in a context of work is huge.
I would be curious how much of that was that. I would definitely, and we probably need to start winding this up. Or winding this down. Sorry, my Afrikaans gets them mixed up. Like, what's the other thing that I always get mixed up? Oh, it's all downhill from here. In Afrikaans, when you say it's not afterhand van die af, like it means like, okay, it's just easy going from here. But like in English, when you say it's down, so I sometimes get them mixed up. Like, this is one of winding up and winding down. Yeah, like in Afrikaans, you would like market no, you would market too. But so what I wanted to mention is that I'm curious. I wouldn't have been as open about it if the tech industry wasn't such a great space for the last 5 years, like where and like turns out it didn't really affect my job prospects, but back then, like the fact that like there was so much work definitely, like I think like made me doubt myself less. So I'm wondering whether if it wasn't for that kind of bubble, whether less people would have actually spoken out. And because if times were tough and people were just hanging on to things, that'd be like, just get in line, don't say anything. So I'm curious whether we would have made as much progress if the job market wasn't that great for the last half a decade. Yeah.
I agree with you. It's definitely been like tech always for example, had a bigger problem with misogyny than other fields. But at the same time, the last 10-ish years, 8-10 years, there was more push towards equity in tech because it was like we didn't have to worry for our jobs if we spoke up.
Yes.
I think the difference now is that, and that's beyond tech, so when I first started talking about mental health, it was because I couldn't filter anymore, because I was too not okay to pretend to be okay. And I think ever since 2020 with pandemic and everything, and that I believe is still ongoing, that has affected people's mental health. Not so much because they had to mask up, as some people like to pretend, but because it has been a huge impact on mental health to see what governments are doing, what companies are doing, etc. And people have gotten to the point where they're not okay and they cannot hide it anymore. And that's, I think, why we're now additionally seeing more people speak about mental health, because they have no other choice, because it's gotten so bad that if they don't speak about it, something bad is going to happen, or they're going to explode with all of this. And and they're sounding the alarm bells in a way. So yes, in a way, it is because tech was a good place to be in a couple of years ago, and we had the luxury, and we could use our privilege to push for these kinds of topics. And now it's kind of an international emergency.
I mean, one thing I wanted to say is I think honestly, if we had the time and wanted to, we could probably make this a daily show and we wouldn't have trouble finding guests. Um, that's how many people is out there that's dealing with
Mhm.
this and would be, especially the way we're doing it, where we're giving you the option of being anonymous and not having to be on video, all that kind of stuff. I think honestly, we would not have a problem to have a guest every day. Um, but so that is good and bad. It's bad from the fact that that's just true, but it's good that people are willing to speak out about this. Like putting that little line on your LinkedIn bio saying destigmatizing mental illness, being okay with that, that says something. It says that we're moving in a better direction, but now there's a lot of other things broken. Um, I mean, this was a far-reaching conversation that touched on a lot of really, really, really interesting topics, and I think like each of these could have easily spun out into its own episode. Um, but I think like what I have learned is I think it's my classic problem that I've always had is the fact that I avoidance of conflict, and I think that is probably like I learned in doing MBSR. I learned that that does more damage than good. I'm still struggling to make that part of my conscious thinking. My my de facto go-to is avoiding conflict, and I think me not having told people in my life that I was laid off was a form of protection, but it was also a form of avoiding conflict.
Mhm.
I think
For sure.
if I'm really honest with myself, underlying all of that is this avoiding conflict, because I think I think it ties it goes both ways. Like I think it's avoiding conflict, but also because I don't have an answer. So if there's a conflict situation that arises, I do not have a way to tie it
To
to
resolve
bring it
it.
to a conclusion
Hmm.
because I do not have an answer. So it's like this is just going to be a conflict that's going to escalate and escalate and escalate, and I don't know where it's going to end. So I'm just going to kind of avoid it, and I'll deal with it myself, and just hope it kind of blows over. I can pave it over, and nobody needs to know. Or I'll, you know, my idea was I was going to come with, by the way, I was laid off 4 weeks ago, but I have a new job, so don't worry. It's all okay. It's all good. You see, it's that thing where there's that moment of where I could go to conflict, but then I have the resolution in my back pocket to just pull out. When I don't have that, I avoid. So I think that's what I learned here. But I know that that does more damage than good. I would not recommend it to people. So from my part, what I've learned through this and what I'm seriously going to try and make part of my mental thinking and just how I think about stuff is rather just be open and honest um, as much as you possibly can, especially with the people that's close to you, um, and let them know if things are going rough and allow them to decide for themselves whether they can handle it or not. But don't burn your bridges and don't. It's hard enough to find support. Don't cut off the people that's right around you who want to support you. I think that's where I'll cut up.
One thing that I definitely like kind of learned or kind of was able to more concretely kind of get my head around is um like I think just like Kai as we said, you know, like I kind of have a new appreciation for just how broken the hiring like system at the moment is. And I think like if anything, if there's anyone listening here and they're kind of at that point that you were like is there something fundamentally wrong with me? Like I think I'm a phenomenal fit for this. And why are they not hiring me? Like, you know, like surely like the only reason would be my personality because on paper, like I
Mhm.
um and I think like one thing like that has become apparent to me through this conversation is that no, it's like they're not hiring you because like their system for finding the best person for the job, everyone's system at the moment is just like so broken, and it's like They just literally can't get to the people, even if you are the objectively, empirically provable best candidate for this job. Like, it's just like so broken that you don't even show up on their radar. So I think that's maybe a bit of encouragement for people who are finding themselves in that place. It sucks not being able to find a job, but I think it's also like there's a bit of encouragement there in terms of that it's not a you problem. But yeah.
Mm. And maybe while we shouldn't be the ones who have to fix this, we can fix it by only applying for jobs we're actually qualified for and writing our own cover letters.
Yeah.
Not clogging the pipelines. But hey, I mean, if you need a job badly, you do what you have to. I respect that.
Yeah, I don't know the solution to that part, but yeah.
But like, thank you for replying to those 500 people. I'm pretty sure they all appreciate. Like, most of them appreciated it. Even if you can't repeat it, you did something good for 500 people.
Yeah. Like, see, this is the part where I have to still work on my acceptance of compliments and be like, yeah, you know what? That was a really cool thing, And like, I'm like, yeah, like I'm literally racking my brain now for a way to negate it, to be like, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what a friend told me. No, I'm gonna tell you what a friend told me many, many years ago. I don't actually remember which friend, but they were like, take the damn compliment, Kai. Fucking take the compliment.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not like Schalk. Like,
and so you say, thank you. I see that.
Like, thank you. I appreciate that.
And it gets easier and you get better at taking compliments. Trust me.
Still don't know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, that voice eventually happens silently, and then at some point.
Yeah, see, I'm not like Schalk about conflict. Like, man, I'll if you're being unreasonable, bro, like I will come for you. But like, if you wanna like paralyze me, throw a compliment my way, and I'm just like, oh no, my vulnerability. You've discovered my weakest part. But yeah, so there you go. All right. I think we can probably end it off there. Yeah. Schalk, do we have anyone else lined up for upcoming episodes?
We are speaking to somebody on Slack today. I've responded finally. So yes, we do have somebody lined up for June.
Okay, so I can maybe do a bit of a teaser for that. So yeah, really cool guy. He was in tech. He's currently working at the Sustainability Institute near Stellenbosch, doing a lot of work in complexity theory and stuff. There's very interesting insights in terms of just like the dynamics of the tech industry, and like also just like really someone who's very in touch with his own humanness as well, as a part, like in addition to the tech side. Yeah, awesome. Okay, thanks, Kai. This was really great. I think this has been the one that's been the longest running. So take that as a compliment. Like, you obviously have very interesting stuff to say. So yeah, okay.
Thank you for the compliment.
Oh, it's amazing. I just had to get you back, huh? There you go. Like,
see what I did there?
There you go. Like,
Nah, thank you so much. I always love talking about mental health. I don't love talking about hiring in the tech industry, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
It was good.
Okay,
cool.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.